Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nature Painting. In today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys how to paint nature using several of the techniques that I've learned. So, let's get right to it. Now for the materials, we're going to need an easel. I made this one myself. If you guys want to know how to make it, just ask in the comments. I also attached a nice bottle to it with water for my watercolors and a nice flask to refill it whenever it gets dirty. Now I've drilled in some holes in the wood for my brushes, and I also have usually 2 pieces of paper towels. Make sure it's not toilet paper. I also attached a string as a drying rack. Now in my box, I've got my mixer, my brushes. I have a wide selection for many different plants. I've got my palette knife, which you'll see in a moment, my sponge, and my brushes. So, we're first going to start by sketching it out. Make sure it's a light sketch, but first we're going to start by putting a border. So, from that birch tree to that oak, up to this point in the sky, up to the fields. Make sure there's a border so you get to know the proportions. Now, find out what's the background, the foreground, and the middle ground by separating it into 3 layers. The furthest thing away is the background, the middle furthest thing is the middle ground, and the closest thing is the foreground. Start by painting in a very light wash for clear sky. Make sure it's really light with lots of water. I like to use a big brush to make it a lot more easier. Then you can start by painting the trunk, go bottom up. Just some thin strands of brown. You could have it one shade. Then we're going to start by stippling the leaves. One shade, just start stippling. Make sure to get a good idea of the shape of the tree before painting it. It'll help you a lot once you paint. And make sure to stipple horizontally, not pecking forward. Over time, you're going to start seeing formations in the trees, and just continue. Make sure you're very patient with your work. For a pine tree, just add in some horizontal strokes with the flat brush. Add in some different tints to give it more of a realistic look, and give it some drooping branches. So now we're going to add in some tints. So just add different varieties. Usually the insides of the trunk will be a lot darker, and the outsides will be a lot lighter where the sunlight is hitting. Then we're going to start with the middle ground. So start by stippling in some form. So we've got 2 beeches. So we're just going to start doing downward stroke. Now we're going to draw a trunk for a birch with the palette knife. So we're just going to scratch it with the tip. We're going to move the paint around to make a nice white figure. Then we're going to start with the close ground. We're just going to sketch in a light selection of birches and give it a nice light wash. Then we're going to start with the sumacs. So we're going to flare out our brush like this to help us get the leaves. We're just going to dip it in a bit of paint, flare it out, and we're just going to start drawing X-like shapes. This is a lot easier way of getting several branches done at once. We're going to go back to our pines in the front, and we're just going to draw in a light trunk. Remember, we're going to add more detail later. This is just to get a good idea of the form. Now we're going to go back to the sumacs, draw on some branches, make sure it's darker underneath, and then just draw some red fruits on top. Now we're going to start with the fields, just cover it in a nice yellow wash. We're going to use a sharp part of our sponge, and we're going to dip it in some green paint. Then we're just going to add some fields, just do upward strokes. Add in a bit of yellow to make it for the flowers, and just add in a bit of detail with the small brush. Then you could add in a bit of white to show the reflection, fix it up a bit, and there we go. We've got full painting. It's a good beginner painting. Could do a bit of work, but for the most part it has minimal blankness, and it's pretty interesting to look at. So I hope you liked this video, and I'll see you guys in the next painting video.